Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Marina Grosu from Washington, D.C. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. As Israeli forces conducted drills on Monday in preparation for what Israel said would be a massive effort to crush the Islamic militant group Hamas, relief organizations warned that an Israeli ground offensive may expedite the mounting humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. More than 1 million residents of the Gaza Strip have abandoned their homes in preparation for the anticipated Israeli attack to overthrow Hamas after its deadly massacre 10 days ago. Over 4,000 people on both sides have already died in the war, and thousands have been injured. Residents in Gaza claim there is nowhere safe to flee. Israel reportedly confirmed to Reuters that it has reached a 5-hour ceasefire with the U.S. and Egypt to open the Rafah border crossing that will make it possible for humanitarian aid to enter Gaza and help evacuate foreign citizens. Antonio Brusa, the Director of Human Resources for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, said at least 14 UNRWA employees in Gaza have died, and approximately 1 million people, or nearly half of Gaza's total population, are currently displaced. As calls for humanitarian aid in Gaza grow, Hamas is blocking evacuation routes and stealing fuel and medical supplies sent by UNRWA to Gazan civilians, according to the Israeli Defense Forces. On Monday, the Israeli military said Hamas was holding 199 Israelis hostage in Gaza since their October 7th attack on Israel. Cardinal Pierbattista Pizzaballa, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, expressed his willingness to trade himself for the children taken hostage by Hamas and discussed the Holy See's efforts at mediating the ongoing crisis in Gaza and the Holy Land. In an online meeting with journalists, he shared his concern for the release of the children taken prisoner by Hamas. He conveyed his absolute willingness to do anything if it results in the return of those kids to their families. Cardinal Pizzaballa reiterated the need to free the prisoners. Meanwhile, Cardinal Angelo de Donatis, vicar of the Diocese of Rome, led a crowd of faithful in a candlelight vigil and recitation of the Rosary for peace in the Holy Land. The Cardinal reiterated the Holy Father's appeal for peace in the Middle East. UNICEF warns that children coming to Armenia as refugees face the risk of deteriorating mental health if not given immediate support. Social workers who have been giving children and families specialized care said that refugee children are showing signs of severe psychological distress. In a press release, the United Nations Children's Fund said that all of the 30,000 children who have fled their homes are dealing with intense feelings of sadness, anxiety, fear, and anger, manifesting in nightmares, bedwetting, and inconsolable crying. Children arriving in Armenia have not been allowed to finish their schooling, UNICEF noted, and many have lived in dangerous or unsettling environments with their families, citing a fear of violence. Christine Wygand, UNICEF Armenia representative, said their physical, emotional, and psychological well-being has been severely damaged by displacement, wars, and hardship. Children run the danger of continuing to experience the repercussions of these extraordinarily upsetting experiences for years to come without ongoing help. Churches in the Ukrainian regions that Russia annexed are still being shut down by its military. The latest among them was the Orthodox Church of Ukraine in Basan. Several religious gatherings were disrupted by Russian forces, who claimed that they had taken place without permission from the government. The Russians are accused of not only closing churches, but also of pressing criminal charges against religious leaders. Meanwhile, the World Council of Churches has expressed serious concerns regarding the potential ban on the Ukraine Orthodox Church and its compliance with international norms on religious freedom. Peter Pruve, the director of the Commission of the Churches on International Affairs at the World Council of Churches, sent a letter to the Speaker of the Ukrainian Parliament. Ruslan Stefanchik said the World Council of Churches believes that it is unacceptable to apply the principle of collective responsibility to religious organizations. Australian bishops say that despite the idea to include an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice in the Australian Constitution was overwhelmingly rejected, Australia must still find a means to address the injustices that First Nations people face. Bishop Charles Gauci of Darwin, chair of the Australian Bishops' Commission for Relations with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, said there was an overwhelming consensus that more should be done to address the injustice experienced by the First Nations people. He urged greater effort to be made to end persistent injustices and move towards reconciliation. All 6 Australian states voted no on the constitutional amendment that recognized First Nations peoples and established an advisory body named the Voice to Parliament by a majority of 61% on October 14th. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has vowed to forge a new way to close the gap in life outcomes between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians after voters resoundingly rejected enshrining a voice to Parliament in the Constitution. 3 nuns and a seminarian abducted from Nigeria's Imo State earlier this month are freed after 9 days of captivity. The abductees were released on October 14th, according to the Vicar General of the Missionary Daughters of Mater Ecclesiae in Nigeria. The nuns and the seminarians were abducted on October 5th on their way to Mbano to take part in the funeral of the mother of one of the sisters. Armed men took them away along with the driver. The nuns belong to the Missionary Daughters of Mater Ecclesiae and Risen Lord congregations. Meanwhile, the seminarian is part of the Missionary Sons of the Most Holy Trinity. The West African nation is witnessing an uptick in abductions and violence. According to a recent Gallup poll, religious people worldwide report being happier, having more social support, and being more active in their communities than non-religious people. The report stated that spirituality and well-being will go a long way in tackling mental health concerns after its 10-year poll release as part of events marking the 2023 World Mental Health Day. The new report, Faith and Wellness, the Worldwide Connection Between Spirituality and Wellness, from Gallup and Radiant Foundation, offers new insights into the connection between wellness and spirituality. The study adds to the growing body of evidence showing that religious people enjoy better well-being than non-religious people. According to the World Poll data compiled over a 10-year period in 152 nations, including interviews with around 1.5 million people, there is a significant correlation between religiosity and well-being. Tens of thousands of pro-lifers from across Austria thronged the streets of Vienna for the annual March for Life on October 14th. Nearly 2,000 pro-life advocates participated in the rally to say yes to life and family and no to the culture of death. This year's March for Life comes on the 50th anniversary of introducing the so-called limit regulation, under which abortion in the first 3 months of pregnancy is not punishable under certain conditions. The organizers of the pro-life rally emphasized that peace begins in the womb, and many took part in the march, committing themselves to the universal right to life of every human being. There were isolated counter-protests trying to block people from taking part in the rally. Attorney General Tim Griffin of Arkansas has established a new law enforcement partnership to combat human trafficking in the state. The Attorney General made this declaration on Monday in Little Rock during the Conference on Human Trafficking. He said the organization would be known as the Statewide Tactical Operations Partnership. According to a statement from the Attorney General, this endeavor will give law enforcement agencies a mechanism for collaboration and cooperation to handle the issue better. He added that human trafficking is an issue that affects communities worldwide and must be addressed effectively. A man suspected of being a member of the Islamic State has pled guilty to terrorism charges in the United Kingdom. 39-year-old Ain Leslie Davis from West London was arrested upon arrival at Luton Airport last August after being deported from Turkey, where he served 7.5 years in prison over his membership in the Islamic State. On Monday, he pled guilty to possession of a firearm and of funding terrorism between 2013 and 2014 during a hearing at the Old Bailey. Davis, who appeared via video link from Belmarsh Prison, faces sentencing on November 13th. Davis's offenses were largely exposed through his communications with his then-wife, Amal el-Wahabi, who stayed behind in North London. Davis, who used the name Hamza after converting to Islam, has always denied being connected with the Islamic State group that tortured and beheaded Western hostages in Syria. Belgium raises terror alert after a deadly attack in Brussels on Monday. It comes after a man who described himself as an Islamic State member claimed responsibility for the attack in a video uploaded online. 2 Swedish nationals were shot dead, while another person was wounded. The incident took place close to a stadium where a football game between Sweden and Belgium was about to begin. After an intensive overnight manhunt, the terrorist was shot dead by Belgian police and identified as a 45-year-old Tunisian national. The Chosen's highly anticipated 4th season is set to hit the theaters in February 2024. In a bold move for the television series, every episode of Season 4 will be first released in theaters across the United States and Canada through Fathom distributors. It is the first time in history that a show has opted to release its entire season in theaters first. The 4th season will premiere on streaming services like the Chosen app after the entire season's run in cinemas. The Season 3 premiere and finale were previously seen in theaters. Show creator and director Dallas Jenkins announced this during the Chosen Insiders Conference, or ChosenCon, a gathering of 3,500 fans in Dallas, Texas. And those are your latest headlines. Join us again tomorrow for more. You can also visit us at swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.